Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we've got part 2 of our Outfeed table build. Well, when we left last week's show, we had just got the tabletop kind of temporarily mounted in place. We had done the cutout for the dust collection and done a little bit of some 1/4-inch roundovers around those areas. Today, we need to start concentrating on the legs, and that is going to start off with a little bit of measurement. Well, the legs of our table are going to be mounted across the front of our steel frame here, and they are going to fold down and then support the whole front end. So what I want is a measurement from the floor down to the underside of our table, which is still temporarily sat in place. And it looks to be about 33 5/8. So now, guys, I want a little extra because I have an idea of what I want to do here. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but we're going to try it. You know what? I'm going to cut 2 legs at 36 inches each. And I'm going to be cutting that using the same 1-inch square steel tubing that has a 1/8 wall thickness. Well, I've cut a smaller piece just as an example to show you guys what I have in mind. And this is a piece of the tubing. And what I have done is used an angle grinder with a metal cutting disc on it. And I have very carefully cut out this one section, leaving just this tab here on the end. And with that tab remaining, I'm going to hammer this over flat onto the end of our tubing. And once I get that hammered over flat, I'm going to weld it all the way around and make it so that we have a solid end on our legs. And after the welding and the grinding and a little bit of filing, we end up with this kind of a flat bottom here on our leg. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to drill a number 7 bit into here and then tap this for a 1/4 20 thread. And we're going to do that right in the middle of this flat section on each one of our legs. Okay, well, with that done, I have some of these adjustable feet. Now, guys, these have a 1/4 20 thread on the end of it, and these are just going to get threaded into that hole that we just tapped. And we're only going to thread it about half the way in to give us some adjustability. And at this point now, what we can do is we can sit these at the front of our, or the back end, I guess it would be, of our Outfeed table. And we're going to mark where it is that we need to cut these for their final dimension. And when we mark these, we're going to mark them so that our bars are equal with the top edge of this metal here at the front, or I keep saying the front, but it's the back end of our Outfeed table. All right, so in each one of my legs, centered on our 1-inch side and 1/2 inch down, I have drilled a 1/4 inch diameter hole. And these legs are going to get mounted right here. One will get mounted on this side. The other one is going to get mounted here on this kind of extension piece that I welded on earlier. And what we're going to do is I'm going to clamp these in place so that they are just where I want them. And we're going to drill right through our existing holes, right through our frame, to be able to use some 1/4 inch hardware and mount these legs to our frame. And once you get them mounted, that should give you the ability to just fold down your legs and put them in place. And of course, our adjustable feet at the bottom will give you that adjustability that you'll need if it is out of level for some odd reason. And that is both of our legs mounted. We'll just move this stand out of the way and we can take these clamps off. And we'll just test the function. This one comes down and this one as well. And that gives you that support at the front end or the back end. I keep calling it the front end, but that gives you the support that you need for your outfeed table. Now, guys, here's the thing. If you remember when we put that piece at the other end, we had to put that rabbet due to the fact that the corners of the table itself raised up a little bit as they swung down or swung out. And that is the same thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my tabletop into position where it's supposed to be. I'm going to get up underneath and place some markings where these legs are on both sides, because they're different. They have different planes front to back so that they can fold up together. And I'm going to route a small recess, just a square here where this leg is. That's all I need. I don't want a big dado there or a rabbet. We're just going to do a little routing. So I'm going to get those marked, and at that point we can test it to make sure that it's not going to interfere with our legs folding down. And there we have those recesses cut for the legs. Now I have clamped down the tabletop and tested it to make sure that we have full clearance, and we do. So I'm happy with those. But there is one more little groove that I want to route. And let me show you what that groove is. And this would be the other grooves. There's one on each side. And what this is for is to house a large rare earth magnet bar. And what this will do is when we fold up our legs, this is going to allow the legs to be seated up against our table and hold in place, so that when we're pulling the table out to set it up, we don't have these legs flopping all over the place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some 2-part epoxy, just some 5-minute epoxy. I'm going to put a bunch in each one of the grooves for the magnets, and we are going to epoxy in one of these on each side of our table. Well, while we're waiting for that epoxy to dry, I'm going to bring you over here to the table because there's something I want to point out. There's some provisions that some people forget about when we're talking about an outfeed table, and that is your miter bar here. Now guys, if you're using your miter gauge and you're cutting pieces, as you go through, at some point in time, your miter bar in your miter slot extends beyond that edge of the table. And with that support here of our outfeed table, this thing hits. So while we are past the center point of the blade and we can make the cut just fine, it's really annoying to be cutting and all of a sudden bang into that thing. It's startling and it can throw you off. So we need to make allowances for that. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to mount our table in place where it is that it's supposed to go, and then using our miter slots on our table saw, we are going to mark out where we need to cut some dados to allow for our miter gauge to go past. Now, if we take the miter gauge off, we're not going to extend it any further than this. So really, like, we're not going to push it beyond the end of the table. We're losing support at that point. But we want to give it at least this far. So that is going to make our dado go just a little bit into our actual outfeed table. So I'm going to get those marked up and we're going to get those cut. I'm not sure if I'm going to use a router or if I'm going to use a dado blade, but either way, we're going to get the dados cut into each one of these boards to allow for the miter bar of our miter gauge. And with those dados cut, we can run our miter fence all the way to the end of the table without an issue. Now, I don't see us actually going that far ever, but at least the option is there if we should need it. Now, guys, a bit of a design flaw, my own fault. We can see here, there's now a gap right here. See if my finger goes right down through? That's because by cutting those dados, it removed all the remaining material here from that little rabbet that we cut. That doesn't really bother me. This is a recessed hole. It's not going to have any effect. But what does bother me is that that also is where it coincided with the screws to hold this piece in place. So we don't have quite as much support there as I would like. The support is there as far as the steel, but it's not held down. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is putting some supplementary or some auxiliary brackets out to the sides here, maybe in the middle, just to pull this down and make sure that this is very secure. Now guys, the last thing that I want to do here for this is around the outer perimeter, I want to put a 1/4 inch round over. I also want to take off the corners here. My granddaughter does come into the shop and I do not want a table there with those sharp corners, at least not one that I created. So I'm going to be rounding off those outer corners and putting the 1/4 inch round over, and then I'll show you kind of the final outcome of what we have here. And that's about it. So when we're folding this up, you just lift a little. You can tuck this leg under here, snaps onto the magnet. This side here, the exact same thing, snaps onto the magnet, and then you just lower it and it sits at the front of your saw. Now it's out of the way should you need to use the rest of the shop. If you have the need for an outfeed table, setting it up is simple. You just pull it out and exact reverse order. Unsnap the magnet, bring the one leg down, unsnap the other magnet, and there you go. Ready to roll. And there you have it. An outfeed table for the SawStop Professional Cabinet Saw. Guys, this is an epic project, but I don't want you to think that this is one of those things that you can slap together in an afternoon. I seriously underestimated what this project was going to take. And I initially slotted a full weekend for it, 16 hours. As it turned out, it took 2 full weekends. There was a lot more involved between the painting and the welding and the grinding and all of that. There was just so much more involved in it. And all of my previous outfeed tables that I've made here for the shop, they have never been actually attached to the saw, nor have they been able to be folded down. They have been a permanent fixture, we'll say. And because of that, this one here kind of created a few challenges. Now, speaking of painting, that is one thing that I still have to do. I still have to paint the legs on this because honestly, that raw steel just makes your hands black. It's one of the main reasons that I painted in the first place, as well as to protect the raw metal from rusting. So if you're going to paint it, remember that there is factory oils on these things. So you're going to want to wash that steel with like paint thinner or that sort of thing in order to get those oils off of there and clean it and get it prepped for painting. But I will be painting those legs and then reinstalling them afterwards. Now guys, there are some challenges that come with this, and there was that design flaw that we had there with the dados to accept the miter bar from the miter slot from the miter fence, and that was all on me. I can't really put it on anybody else. This is nobody else's design other than my own. So I have no one to blame but myself, but I'm not too concerned. I really don't think losing those couple of squares of plywood is going to make a difference in the overall function of the outfeed table. What I do like about my outfeed table is the price factor. Guys, if you look up SawStop's outfeed table, and it's just a cage, it's just bars. There is no plywood top. It is just bars that attach to the front. That thing is 700 Canadian dollars. 700. Did you hear me? 700. I might have in this steel, paint, everything, I might have $150 tied up all in all in. between the steel, and even if you want to throw in the welding rods that I had to use, whatever, I don't care what you throw in, I'm still around the $150 mark, which really is a huge savings. And I can guarantee you this one that I built here today is way sturdier than what the commercially available one ever was or ever will be. So the last thing that I need to do here on this project is I need to relocate that overarm dust collection. And guys, that's no big deal. So instead of being on top of that angle iron that's on the back side of the table saw, I'm just going to put the mounting brackets underneath so that the pipe is about 4 inches, possibly 2 to 4 inches lower, and it actually mounts below our Outfeed table now, and it should just work just fine. If not, I'll bring you back up to date on an update show and let you know what the issue was and how I overcame it. Either way, guys, if you haven't worked with an Outfeed table on your table saw before, I'm telling you, it is a whole new ball game. It is a game changer. It is one of those things that will make your table saw even safer. If you thought you were safe before, you have no idea how safe you can be until you have a table that accepts all of your cuts on the opposite side of the blade and prevents you having to hold them, support them, or reach for them. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you've enjoyed today's show, or the series, I should say. If you haven't already, you found any part of today's show or this series interesting, informative, fun, funny, entertaining, you know what? Why not like and subscribe to the channel? We have an amazing audience base here on the show, and I'm hoping that you're going to consider becoming a part of that community. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. This one has been a long time coming. I've wanted to do this for a long time. I'm glad I finally have it done. I'm looking forward to utilizing this Outfeed table in future projects here on the show. I hope you're going to give this one a try for yourself. I hope you're going to look into an Outfeed table for your saw. I hope that this one today is giving you a few ideas as maybe some of the things that you can do to utilize that in your shop. But more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.